Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Radhika, and I'm going to be talking about why we are here, what we are going to do in this session. As we know, students do a lot during their learning years, but we don't have necessarily a good system to record it all, to journal it, because they do a lot and then a lot gets lost, right? So when they actually need it, they are scrambling for a lot of information. So why is this important? Why do they need it? Because your kid, if you're a parent on the call or a student yourself, you're going to need it in the future, whether it is for college applications, whether it is for job applications, for internships, for scholarship. There is a lot of information that you need to put out there, a lot of storytelling that you need to have. And if you're not able to journal it all in time, then a lot of that gets lost. So when you need to refer to that information, it's simply not there. And so that is what we'll be talking about today. What is changing out there in the education landscape? What used to be fine earlier is may not be the norm right now. So what is changing, and how can we prepare students early on so they have what they need? Okay. And then we'll introduce you to a system that helps them record, that helps them organize their entire learning journeys so that when they need it, they have it in future. That's simply put, that is what it is. And that could be everything, all the way from their daily schoolwork, their extracurricular activities, their memories, all the way from their first competitions, their medals that they've won to even possibly their first paycheck. That's the range that we are talking about. Everything can be organized within this system. Today, we have two of our speakers who are student leaders themselves, who've gone through this entire journey, who've gone through this process. So they will be able to guide you in terms of what is important and how to use this system of record, so that we get the students prepared early on. Okay. With that, let me pass it on to Nihira. And of course, we are recording this session for people who are not able to join us today. Thank you.
Yeah, as she said, this is going to be a practical session where we can actually start building something that we can journal our progress in as learners before, and not just have information thrown at us. Before we begin, as a quick introduction, my name is Nihira, and I'm actually going to be entering college at Johns Hopkins University for biomedical engineering this coming fall. Um, Hopkins is actually ranked the number one school in the nation for biomedical engineering. So I do know the process of what it kind of takes to get to these like prestigious colleges, and what colleges care about and what they don't really care about. Okay. A quick reminder that the chat window is open for any questions. So throughout the presentation, if you have any doubts, feel free to put that into the chat, and our team will be monitoring and responding that as much as possible. We do have a packed agenda, so let me just share quickly what our schedule is going to look like. First, we're going to understand what colleges are truly looking for, because the reality is it has changed from what it once was a couple years back. Um, Going along those lines, we're going to talk about the types of activities that truly matter, what matters and what doesn't, what is seen as filler in your application, and what makes lasting impact on these admissions officers. Third, we're going to talk about how strong student profiles are built over time so that you don't feel rushed a few months leading up to college applications, and you're really giving yourself years to build this journal, this digital journal. And finally, the most important part, we're going to actually start creating your own digital footprint today. So by the end of the session, you won't just have notes, you'll leave with something actually built. So that's our ultimate goal. For those who stay till the end and sign up, we do have some important resources and opportunities that we will be announcing. Okay, so let's talk facts about how college admissions have changed over the past few years. Starting with college reality, the statistic itself is a realization is that college admissions officers do spend only 3 to 6 minutes per student application. So this means within the time that they have allotted you, you have to be able to make that lasting impact on them and compel them to want to admit you into their universities. Um, the reality is, from a 25 crore school student population in India, about one-fourth of that do end up going into higher education. So this is a massive volume of applicants, and the competition is increasing within the volume of applicants. Just last year, more than 3 lakh students applied for Delhi University, and roughly 20% got in. And then top colleges like IITs have acceptance rates way below 1%. And the same thing is true about the most prestigious colleges here. Top colleges like MIT, Harvard, or even Johns Hopkins do have general acceptance rates of around 4 to 6%. So realistically, yes, these colleges are incredibly challenging, difficult to get into. So what it takes to get your foot in the door has become steeper, and the competition has become steeper. So what does this mean? When you become ready to start applying for colleges, now you have to start competing from not only a school level, but to a national or even international level, particularly if you're planning on studying abroad. So then the question quickly turns into, what are you doing to compete at that level? How are you going to stand out? We often see students do many, many activities in response to this increased competition. They'll be doing coaching classes, competitive exams, academics, Olympiads, numerous extracurriculars, but when it truly matters, their application seems scattered. And it doesn't come across that they've done any meaningful change in any one of these activities. So a lot of the times we see students doing more and more with failing to actually make themselves stand out. So another statistic that kind of helps our case on how to stand out is that 80% of students worldwide do not document any parts of their journey. So there's no established evidence or proof of their journey and reflection over time. So come 11th grade, when these students, along with their families, are scrambling to remember what they did in 8th, ninth, 10th standard, um, the students that have had that documented journey have an edge when preparing their bio or resume. And typically their story turns out to be more cohesive than one who hasn't had that documentation. So there's no question you're going to be working hard, but what usually happens is that you'll do something, you finish it, and you move on. You keep doing more and more, but not building upon anything to make it seem like anything is actually lasting. So this is where we come in as Courtyardly. It's a platform where students can document their journeys, academic, athletic, artistic, all in one portfolio and educational diary. This recording of your learning helps a lot to transfer into college admissions essays or interview questions for internships and scholarships. So at its crux, Courtyardly is a student success platform. And your personal story of growth can be recorded and shared. It's almost like a LinkedIn, but for students particularly. Okay, so now let's simplify what colleges are actually looking for. The reality is it's not just marks anymore. You can't just get into all of these top universities using test scores. If you see colleges like Ashoka University, particularly because it is a liberal arts college, there's a lot more weightage to holistic growth. And this is true in the US schools as well. Schools are starting to implement competency-based learning curriculums, and accordingly, they want to see growth in multiple areas of interests. So they don't just care about having those academic marks. They want to see how you grow as a person outside of school as well. So what makes someone stand out to college? We can simplify it into 5 basic things. The first is showing initiative. Did you as a student do something on your own, or did you only follow instructions? Can you go above and beyond outside of the school curriculum and dive into your interests because you truly want to? The second is clarity of direction. Colleges aren't looking for a perfect plan, but they do like to see some cohesive narrative strung between your activities, and they want to see they want to see the general gist of what you want to do in the next 4 years in college. They want to know what you're enjoying doing. Have you read up on any of the career pathways that align to your interests? And they want to see if you have oriented or explored some of those interests in high school and middle school by yourself. Um, Okay, third is the proof of work. This is kind of what I was talking about documenting your journey. This is where colleges are going to be wondering if you can genuinely show what you've built, what you've worked on, and what you learned. So, if I, for example, have been doing research for 2 years, I would want to have some proof of that work that I've done in the lab to be able to explain to an admissions officer or an interviewer should they want to go more into detail or even technical detail. Um, Fourth would be consistency. Again, college admissions officers don't want to see 11th or 12th standard student try cramming all their activities into the last few months leading up to college applications. They want to see genuine interest built over time. They want to see something started in freshman or in ninth standard and then continued onwards up until 12th standard. They want to see that um, the the building of interests and leadership over time. And finally, your story. Can you, as a student, clearly explain your journey and growth? So, this is where the active reflection and introspection comes in. After completing a project, you want to truly sit down and think about what have you learned and what questions can someone ask you of that. This is where colleges are selecting people, they're not selecting marks. They want to see who you truly are and how you feel about what you've done. And all of this holds true even beyond colleges. Um, Job interviews, friendships, relationships, you're valued for your personal strength and your personal story matters. People don't want to just hear droning on about marks or something supposedly very objective. They want to have something personalized about you to hold on to truly understand who you are as a person. Okay. So now we're going to go into what activities kind of matter and what activities don't. There are three things every student should focus on. First, you don't want to neglect your academic foundation. To be very clear, grades are still your stepping stone into getting to these prestigious universities. Without having those competitive exams, without having those competitive grades, college admissions officers aren't going to view your application with the same weightage that they would someone who's got very strong academics. So please, academics are clear entry points into getting into these good colleges, and they are essential for making a strong application. Again, though, that is just a starting point. Your activities is the section where students either do too much or do nothing meaningful. What actually works is a few focused activities where colleges have seen you put effort in a long-term situation. So that can mean 3+ years working in a club or or a year working at a research lab. Whatever it is, they want to see consistency, clarity, and they want to see initiative. So that's kind of what we were building on from the last slide. And then finally, you want to parallel your aspirations. So make sure you explore the future career options that you want to go into, and then try orienting your activities or your interests in middle and high school around those long-term career aspirations. If you want to study abroad, make sure you do research on what types of institutions you want to go to and what they would look for in applicants, because it does change school to school. I know MIT, for example, cares a lot about technical rigor, about course load, and um, science or STEM related activities, whereas a school like Harvard or Stanford would care more about leadership and joining together within a community. So yes, school to school does matter based off what they value and what those school core values are. So make sure you do your research on where you want to go. Oh, oops. Okay. So now we're going to discuss how we can get started early. This is where most students get confused. They either think, oh, I'm in 7th standard, it's too early. I'm just in middle school. Or I'm in 11th standard and it's too late. The truth is, it's never too early to start thinking about what you want to do in the future, but it can definitely become too late, or at the very least, incredibly stressful. So let's break it down further. We were talking about the 5 things colleges look for. Now let's start looking at examples of what that means. So, initiative in 7th or 8th standard doesn't need to be something big. It might just be exploring your hobbies or joining a club to participate in competitions. I know for me, when I was in middle school, I started exploring my interests in STEM by just taking more challenging math courses within my school's curriculum. I didn't necessarily have to create something big. I was just engaging in the opportunities directly in front of me. In 11th standard, now colleges would be looking for something more impactful. So this is where they would be talking about leadership. They want to see maybe an initiative in 11th grade would be um, leading a group of students at some competition at the state or national or regional level. I know for me, I founded a club at my school in 10th standard, and I kept doing the presidency role of that for the next 3 years. So that demonstrated to the colleges in my applications process that, hey, I can not only can I take a first step to make sure something happens for me, I can take a group of people along with me, and create a sort of micro community within my school about something that I'm passionate about. Second, clarity. Early on, again, this is where you want to explore. You want to do kind of a little bit of everything. You don't want to have a strict path that you're down. And later on, and when you're approaching those later years in high school, um, you don't necessarily have to have a stringent plan by which you're going to abide by for the next 5, 6 years, but you do want to start choosing that direction. So that could just mean broadly narrowing down what it is that you might be interested in. So I knew from a young age that I wanted to go into STEM. So that started out early on after I was exploring what I wanted to do. And then later I started narrowing that STEM into, ooh, I might be interested in medicine, engineering, I might be interested in pure sciences, whatever it is, I started narrowing it into that. To finally, I reached biomedical engineering. Third, you want the proof of work. So early on, you don't necessarily need to have a massive portfolio or a extravagant journaling diary entry. You just want to have some basic understandings about how you felt when you did certain things. So early on, if you're in middle school and you take a class and you didn't really like it, instead of never taking that class again because you just remembered, "Oh, I had this bad experience one time," write about it so you can refer back to exactly what it was about that class that you didn't like, and perhaps in the future you'd be willing to come back to it. Later on, for proof of work, this is where we want to see bigger projects. So for me, I worked in a lab for 2 years at a local university, and as proof of work, I have multiple posters and research conferences that I attended that I can share with an interviewer or a potential admissions officer to see if to share some more technical rigor of the work that I've been doing. Um, but again, proof of work can be very different. When you're a little bit older, it should be something a little more weighty and something significant to you. So that either that could be an internship in somewhere that something that you're really passionate about, a club you started, or a company you started. Whatever it is, it should be a little bit more meaningful once you grow older. Um, Okay, fourth, you want consistency over time. So again, in middle school, this is just building good habits, build monthly habits. You don't want to start something and drop it after a week. You want to give some percentage of your true effort such that when you reach high school, it's an expectation that you've created for yourself that you're going to give your all into whatever activity that you are going to be doing. And then finally, your story. Again, when you're in middle school, just start writing simply, write down your thoughts, and then once you get older, you can start refining that into a stronger narrative such that you can explain it to someone else. Okay, so let's start looking at some real student college essay examples in some of these areas. Okay, as you can see, for initiative, this student frequently searched the soil, collecting interesting rocks. They spent 2,000 hours studying trees, rocks, and rivers, and a dedicated 500 hours of that time learning how to identify 250 plus different trees. So this is a good way of demonstrating that initiative through writing. From reading this, I can already gather that the student has done something outside of their school's curriculum and it is something that they're truly passionate about. 2,000 hours and 500 hours is no small feat of no small amount of time. So that's a great way to demonstrate initiative through words. And then even if someone isn't necessarily going to read a college essay, interviews for scholarships and jobs, people are going to be asking personal questions and they want to know your interests, and you still want to demonstrate initiative. So knowing how to craft that while answering these types of questions is very important. One more example, I guess, proof of work. My GitHub contribution streak had a profound impact on my student career, the confidence it gave me in job interviews, etc., etc. Mentioning a GitHub contribution streak signals to whoever you're speaking to, whoever is reading this, that you do have some genuine proof of work that if the reader wanted to, they could request, can I see your GitHub? And then they could see those actual project that the student has worked on. So that being able to comfortably reference that definitely strengthens the weight of what you were saying you've learned from a certain activity. So general advice, um, start building your story now so that you can present it later. As you can see, none of them say, I got a perfect score in physics and hence I want to become a physicist. Yes, marks are the foundation, but what matters is how you've built your story, and for that, you need to have a strong story in your docket, something you can start thinking about early on. A portfolio does not get built in a day, but today we are going to take the first step at building it. Um, this is where we're going to go from advice into action. Um, we're gonna start help building those habits that will eventually build a standout portfolio for colleges and even beyond. It'll eventually think of it as having like a visual LinkedIn or having like your own personalized website that can demonstrate to anyone the extent to which you learned and demonstrated that growth over years of learning. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Cynthia. I hope everyone's got access to a browser, either on their phone or laptop or even an iPad, any browser, so that we can go through this short live demo.
Thank you, Nahira. And then while I give my introduction for the live demo, please go ahead and go to courtyardly.com to follow along. And then just a little bit about myself. My name is Cynthia. I'm also student leader here at Courtyardly, and I just finished my first year of college at the Georgia Institute of Technology studying computer science. And Georgia Tech is ranked number 5 in the nation for computer science. So I also know a little bit about like the STEM side of things and getting into a college with a STEM major. And then with that said, um, after getting to the website, we're going to go ahead and just take a quick look at our homepage, at our landing page. Once again, as students, you can see that there's a lot tailored to you guys, a lot of capturing your journey so that you can launch your future. And then there's like a quick introduction and overview of some tools and also some resources like our global community that you can join and use. And then just kind of as a quick disclaimer, this is meant to be kind of like an introduction. So please feel free to explore afterwards and explore other features afterwards. And as students, the thing that'll matter most to you is our idea of going from journaling to career readiness. So like Nahira was saying, the whole idea of like reflecting, jotting down what it is you do in middle school, Quarterly helps turn that those journal entries essentially into something you can use for your career, for your college applications, and so forth. And as you can see, it all starts with journaling. It turns into a way to track your growth. It turns into a way to apply and prepare for college. And eventually, it'll also help you later on after you graduate, after you finish school with your career exploration. With that said, we're going to go ahead and click the Get Started for Free so that we can officially start this demo. And what you'll see here is a series of questions, essentially a survey that wants to get to know you better. So the platform wants to get to know you better, what it is you're doing so far, and interests and hobbies you have, where you're headed in the future, any goals and aspirations you have. And there is a skip option for each of these questions. So feel free to skip any questions you're not comfortable answering or you don't want to answer at the moment. You can always come back to it. But essentially, the more you answer, the better the platform will know you, and the more tailored Courtyardly will be to your journey and what it is you want to do. With that said, this first page, you can see that there's a lot of things you can do with Courtyardly. So for example, if I were a seventh standard student, I'd probably focus more on building habits, tracking routines, reflecting on what it is I'm doing right now so I can eventually grow my story. But if I were, say, a 10th standard student, I'd probably focus more on, getting noticed for college, starting to turn those achievements into highlights, and so forth. So on this page, just feel free to select what aligns best with your interests at the moment. And then we are all students, so we can click the student path. And then if you're in 9th to 12th standards, you'll select high school student, and otherwise you'll select middle school student. And once again, every journey is unique. So this is where we start getting to know more about you. This is where you can start telling the platform more about yourself. And then we can eventually construct that journey. So once again, feel free to answer the questions. And if there's a question that you're not sure how to answer, but you still want to put something down, just go back to what Nihiro was saying about from 7th to 9th standard, you're, tr reflecting on what it is you're doing. Maybe you have a few more short-term goals like getting good grades and whatnot. And then if you're 10th to 12th standard student, you're probably focused more on, college prep and then getting internships or long-term projects that'll really help you stand out. And then once again, this is just a quick introduction. So for the sake of this live demo, we're going to go ahead and get to the final page so we can set up our accounts. And then what you want to do is you want to create a Courtyardly account. And as you can see, there's multiple options. If you have a Google account, feel free to use that. If you just want to use your email, there's also an option for that. And then once you have your account, you can go ahead and sign in. And as a student, the first thing you're taken to is this dashboard, is your Courtyardly dashboard. Um, so on this dashboard, you'll see a lot of things, but the first thing I want to point out is what we call our AI buddy. And this is essentially your personal assistant as you plan your journey. And there's separate offerings on how to interact with the AI engine for our AI enthusiasts out there. But you can also just play around with it yourself after we finish this session. But as you can see, the AI engine has multiple like modes essentially. It can help you plan your day, it can help you plan your projects and also build your portfolio. And we're also going to go more into what that means for you as a student using Courtyardly. So if you scroll farther down on the dashboard, we arrive to the section called My Journey Map. And this is essentially um, like the core of Courtyardly. And beneath it, you'll see 4 different tabs. And these are actually the 4 pillars within Courtyardly, the 4 pillars that will really help you, track your growth and plan your journey, and eventually create something that you can use for college applications, internships, and so on. And then the best part about this journey map is that it's a one-stop shop. It does all your tracking, planning, portfolio building all in one place. And I know I really found that helpful as a student, because I'm sure some of you can relate that as students, you're constantly getting thrown a lot of different tools you can use, a lot of different ways you can stay productive. But with Courtyardly, it's all in one place. So it's really convenient and it's a lot less confusing. With that said, the first pillar we're going to explore is called Plan My Day. And then this is where you can build your habits, right? So if you're a 7th standard student, you'll want to start tracking your activities with this. And if you're, say, an 11th standard student, you'll probably want to start tracking things for your college applications with this. So for example, if I click the add button, what pops up is a way to add a new quest or essentially like a to-do item or something to get done. And then just as an example, if I were an 11th standard student, I would probably use this to maybe build my resume for college. And then I can add more details. So maybe I want to track recent competitions I've been to and maybe an internship I've held. So I'll put that there. Um, and if this is something I want to do today, I'll set the due date there. It's not horribly high priority as of right now, and it's not super difficult for me. So I'm going to leave the priority as medium and difficulty as normal. And then another really helpful feature is the idea of tags. So when you create items you want to track, things you want to do, you can attach a tag to it so that it helps keeps to-do items for different parts of your life separate, and it helps really stay organized and whatnot. And then this is school related, so I'll give it a tag of study. And when I click create quest, it gets added immediately to my to-do list of things to do. That's really helpful. And then once again, if you're a 7th to 9th standard student, you can use it to keep track of assignments and things to do. And if you're a 10th to 12th standard student, you can use it to keep track of things to do for college applications and whatnot. And once again, going back to what Nahira was saying, it really helps keep track of what you're doing in the moment. So that when you need to reflect upon it later on, it's right there for you to use. The next pillar we'll explore is called Plan My Project. And Plan My Projects is really useful for those longer projects, those long-term assignments you work on, where you really have to learn and grow a lot. And um, as I already said, like keeping track of what you've done is already kind of challenging. So keeping track of everything you've done for a really long-term project can be even harder. But luckily, Courtyardly gives you the exact tool you can use for that. So projects are created kind of like folders. And then once again, as you work through the project, you can add things on Courtyardly to the folder. And keeping track of it really makes a huge difference. It helps you document your growth and whatnot. So as an example, let's say I'm an 11th standard student. How I can use this is maybe I want to gather resources for my college applications, right? So I can label my long-term project as that. And then for those of you who are more visual learners or who like to kind of code everything, you can assign it a emoji that you think represents the project. And then this next part allows you to select if it's a short-term goal or a long-term project. So let's say if I were working on my college application starting in 10th standard, I would select a long-term project because it'll be done over a couple of years. But let's say I were, starting 12th standard, perhaps college applications are, right there, they're coming quite quickly, then I would select it as a short-term goal. And all of this just kind of helps organize your projects, the priorities for them, and what you can do with them. So let's select long-term project. And once we create the project, it shows up as a folder here. You click into it, it's labeled as a long-term project. It has its title. And what you can do is within every project, you can add quests. So these are essentially subtasks you would do to complete and work towards that project. And once again, this is really helpful because everything you need to do for one project is in that folder, and everything you need to do in another project will be in another folder. And similar to how quests work, once you have this added, you can come back to it and look through it at any time and then at any point. So this really helps track your growth and it'll stop you from forgetting things down the line, especially when the stress of college applications really hits. The home tab at the top, we're taken back to our dashboard. And once again, we'll see that AI buddy. Scroll down, and then the third pillar we're going to talk about today is upload my skills. So what you'll notice is when you click upload, it takes you to your Courtyardly workspace. And within this workspace, there are multiple folders. You can also create more folders, but this is essentially where we start tracking that proof of work that Nahira was talking about, right? The competitions you've done, the clubs you've participated in, this is where we put proof of work and evidence for those activities. A way to think about this is every time you attend a club meeting or go to a competition, go to an Olympiad competition, do something outside of school, you probably take pictures, right? When you and your team take down that first place medal, there's probably a picture of that somewhere. And this is where you can store those pictures that once again, when it comes time to building your resume, you have something to go off of. And then just as an example, I like to use this academic learnings folder. as a way to keep track of activities I've attended outside of school, but are related to school or related to like what I do in college. So as an example, I spoke at this nationwide AI summit last year, and then they gave me a name card along with a poster to put up at my stand. And I thought those were really cool, and it kind of shows that, I was there, I was a student speaker, I was selected for that. So I store that photo in my workspace so I can reference it later. And then in this achievement folder, I'll put things like awards I've won and anything else of the sort. So as an example, here's a picture of all the challenge coins I've received from various leaders within an extracurricular program I've been a part of. And as you can see, there's dates on some of these. So it shows that I've been going at an extracurricular for a couple of years. And that's what colleges are looking for sometimes. They need to see your dedication to an activity. So once again, your workspace is just a really great place to put all that proof of work, to put the evidence you've collected over the years of what it is you're interested in and what it is you're doing. And then going back to our dashboard and scrolling down, the last pillar we wanted to talk about today is your portfolio. So this is where everything comes together, right? Who you are, your aspirations and goals, any projects you've done, experiences and skills you've gained over the years. And the idea of a portfolio is that it kind of displays everything in a very visual sense. And we can see that if we click build, and what happens is Courtyardly's portfolio builder loads. And the first thing you'll notice is that there's a lot of tabs at the top here. And then these tabs actually represent different sections of your portfolio. And if we scroll down, we'll see that the first section is basically a very quick introduction of who you are. It has a place for a short description where you can list any roles you're taking on or anything you're doing. It has your name. It has a status that you can list where it is in school you are. And then you can also add some tags that are related to what you do and your interests. This next section is called About Me. And you can, as you can see, you can add a quick headline or a header that describes who you are. But there's a place for you to write out a longer bio, a bio with more detail about who it is you are. And when admission officers and employers, future employers view your portfolio, this is the first section they're really reading. And this really gives them a strong first impression of, who you are and what it is you want to do in life. And then Quarterly's portfolio builder also has a spot to list your school or organization. And this next section is called projects, which might sound familiar because as we were saying, this is kind of those long-term projects you've done. And then in your portfolio, you can list the most important ones you've done or the ones that you think show who you are the most. So I know for me, when I was applying for college, the three projects that were most important to me all had to do with my extracurriculars, along with any school events I attended that were related to what I wanted to do. So as an example, I put here a leadership position I served in within my extracurricular, and it's a leadership position at the national level. And it comes with certain things like collaboration and advocacy. So I really wanted to list that. And then I also listed an award I got that only about 0.5% of cadets in the extracurricular program, 0.5% of students in the program get. So I thought that really showed who I was and how much time I dedicated toward the extracurricular. The last project I really wanted to showcase is once again when I was selected as a student speaker for that AI summit. AI pertains highly to, computer science and the technology side of things. So I really wanted to showcase that. And once again, like we were saying, your projects are very long term. They show who you are, how much you've grown. So listing your most important ones and selecting certain types allows colleges to see how holistic of a student you are and what it is you're doing. If we scroll down more, we arrive to our gallery section, also known as captured moments. And this is where you take the things you put in your workspace that we were talking about earlier. You can put those photos here to display for any portfolio builders, and it allows admission officers and future employers to see that proof of work that we were talking about. And this is kind of where it all falls together. All the pictures you have, all the evidence you have, that's where you put it. This is where you put it. And then for me, I chose to put a lot of the artwork I've done because although it's not directly related to what I wanted to do in college, when I was applying for college, I know a lot of colleges wanted that holistic approach, and art's something I've been doing for many years. So I wanted to put proof of work about that here. And then once again, I have a few pictures of awards and other things I've done within other extracurriculars. This next section is called My Journey. And what you'll notice as you scroll down is that it's essentially a really nice timeline of everything you've done. So any experiences you have might, whether that be school leadership positions, if you're a club member, if you have internships, or if you're doing research outside of school, all of that goes here. And Courtyardly's portfolio builder formats it in a very nice timeline, which is something that's like really important because you see this, you can easily see, oh, this is what the student was doing at this time, and this is what they were doing after. And it's also listed chronologically. So it's the perfect visual display of your growth and what it is you've been doing. This last section is a contact section. So this is if anyone wants to reach out to you after seeing your portfolio. It's really important because I know admission officers and definitely future employers will reach out to you if they're interested. And then the last few features I wanted to touch on, the portfolio builder has a preview mode, and this allows you to see your portfolio exactly how a viewer would see it. So if you're worried about formatting, if you're worried about something not showing up right, you can easily toggle between the two modes and fix things as needed. And then this last feature is this share button up here. If you click it, you actually get a personalized URL of your portfolio. So what admission officers and future employers receive is a website. It's a complete website of who you are, what it is you've done. And that's, first off, I'm sure, as you can imagine, really cool, but it also leaves a really good impression because a lot of students, once again, aren't tracking their growth, aren't really paying attention to what it is they've been doing over the years. But not only are you paying attention to all of that, you're also formatting it really nicely and you're showing a very holistic view of what it is you've done. And that's exactly what admission officers and future employers love to see. And with that, those are just some of the features you'll probably find helpful as a student. Once again, this is just kind of an introduction session. So please feel free to explore the other features once we finish. And now I'll hand it back to Nahira so that she can also show her portfolio to you guys, and so that we can wrap it up.
So I got same basic outline as Cynthia's. So mine is demonstrating what I'm planning on doing in college because I have not yet reached there. So just some of my interests and what I want to research and what I want to um, delve into when I plan to attend Johns Hopkins. For future works, I kept two of the biggest things I did in high school, so that would be research and doing my language revision for Kathak. The research summary I feel is super important for people who are interested in that technical detailing of the research I've done. So I just have a quick summary overview of the research I presented at two conferences this last year. So that's in the featured work section. My gallery just shows some things that are really important to me. So that'd be Kathak, badminton. This is one of those conferences here. And then my journey again just demonstrates some of my work experience and leadership experience to signal that initiative that I have taken over the past 4 years in high school. And then yeah, finally it's the contact page if anyone wanted to reach out and ask for more questions. They have direct access to my contacts or whatever I decide to put there. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. Back to our presentations. Okay, so generally, we get three big things from Courtyardly is that we do want to give students a way to grow alongside our company as well. So through Courtyardly, students can explore leadership opportunities to demonstrate that initiative through a virtual internship or community roles that help them build that confidence, communication, and teamwork that careers require beyond the classroom. So you can also become certified trainers like me and Cynthia here, and we like to hire student leaders in areas of software development, marketing, and business operations. So if that is something that interests you or your student, feel free to reach out. Courtyardly also gives a global community because it is an international software. This allows people to learn in a global world, not just a local classroom. Courtyardly gives students the opportunity to connect with peers and attend guide sessions, and participate in certifications and portfolio building to engage with a growing community of learners and leaders. And then finally, think of Courtyardly as a digital Aadhaar card of your learning journey. And it also provides a safe and controlled environment for your student to engage with these other students. Everything's vetted, so nothing inappropriate or out of place is going to be on that platform. So in a controlled environment, you can start building that lifelong impact to stand out in your admissions processes. Because you have given your time today, we do have a special offer only for participants. Upon sign up today, you would get 2 months free premium membership, which gives you access to a various number of other resources through Courtyardly to help strengthen your portfolio. Thank you again for your attention. We do have many such workshops in the future. For any of the latest updates, join our WhatsApp channel. Just scan this QR code. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to email us. Thank you so much and happy portfolio building.